Hi, welcome to today's dose of virtual vitamin Z. My name is Stephen Verla, and I am the curator of Humane Education for the Detroit Zoological Society. Today, I'm going to be sharing a Humane Education activity of the week, which is the Reverence Walk. And by participating in this activity, you are going to increase your reverence for local wildlife and ecosystems, increase your knowledge about local wildlife and ecosystems, and strengthen your empathy and your observation skills. To do this activity, you'll just need a few supplies. They include a computer with internet connection to access this video, a journal and a pencil, or if you don't have a journal and a pencil, you can use a piece of paper, your senses, and your curiosity. And here's some vocabulary that we're going to be learning together: reverence, observe, and mimicry. Before we get going, I wanted to say be sure to stay safe. If you're a young person, be sure not to go outside unless you're with a trusted adult. Be mindful of hazards, especially if you're walking near roads. Observe local orders and restrictions, and practice social distancing. And the good thing is that this activity is actually going to be a lot more effective if you are practicing social distancing. So here is the Reverence Walk in a nutshell. What you're going to be doing is you're going to be going on a walk for about 15 minutes. And if you can, you can walk through your neighborhood, or you can walk in your backyard, or even stay at home and just look out the window and listen out the window. And for the first few minutes, what you're going to be doing is you're going to be using your eyes to look. And then you're going to be using your ears to listen. And then your nose to smell. And finally, you're going to be using your feet to feel. And then at the end, you're going to put those all together, all four of those senses. And after your walk, you can come back and write down some of the things that you saw, heard, smelled, and felt in a journal or on a piece of paper. And you can also share them in this comment section. So I have led several, I've been on many reverence walks and led several of them. And I found that there are some things we can do to make the experience more engaging and more effective. And those things involve learning from animals and mimicking animals. The first one of those things is using what's called eagle eyes. We can use our eyes to look with eagle eyes. And if you look at this picture, this is a picture of one of our rescued bald eagles at the Detroit Zoo. Eagles have eyes in the front of their heads, and this allows them to have what's called binocular vision. And we as humans also have binocular vision, but we can, help enhance that by taking our hands and making circles and then bringing them up close to our face, or if you're comfortable, actually putting them on your forehead. And what this does is this restricts our vision. It prevents us from getting distracted by things that are going on in our peripheral vision and allows us to really focus on what's right in front of us. So on your walk, maybe you use eagle eyes to, rather than see a whole forest, see an individual tree. Or rather than see an individual tree, see a branch of that tree. The next thing we can do is we can use our ears to listen by using horse ears. Now, sometimes I call these deer ears, but today I'm calling them horse ears because I wanted to give a shout out to our rescued thoroughbred racehorses who live at the Detroit Zoo, like Trio here. And if you look closely at Trio, you can see that Trio's ears are much larger than human ears. Now, we as humans may not want to or be able to permanently change the shape of our ears, but we can do it temporarily with horse ears. And to do that, you have to put your hands up like this again, and then bring your fingers together to make cups, and then put them behind your ears and push forward. So go ahead and do this with me now. What you may notice is you're starting to hear more sounds than you normally would, and the reason for that is that your hands are actually acting like satellite dishes, bringing more sounds into your ear. And you can change the direction of the ears and that will change the direction that you're hearing from. So that's pretty cool too. The next thing we can do is we can use our nose to smell using wolf nose. Now, if you spend time observing wolves like Casca at the Detroit Zoo, or maybe if you have a companion animal dog at home and have watched them smell, you may notice that they don't just take one smell when they're really curious. They'll take a whole bunch of smells. And this is bringing more particles into their noses so that they can detect more things. And so we can do that too. It looks a little bit silly, but the good news is, when you're out for a walk, no one's really looking at you. And you can, when you smell something interesting, really take, several smells and try to even move around to see where that smell is coming from and what it might be using your wolf nose. And then finally, we can use our feet to feel using tiger paws. Now at the Detroit Zoological Society, and specifically the Detroit Zoo, we have two tigers who are brothers, Alexei and Nikolai. And I've spent a lot of time observing them. And one thing I've noticed is that they like to play with each other by sneaking up on each other. So one might be lying in the sun, and the other one decides to quietly sneak up and try to pounce on him. And to do that, they have to be very careful where they step, because if they step on a twig and that twig breaks, then, their position's given away. So they feel very carefully when they step to make sure that they don't make any noise. And when we're walking, we can do the same thing. A lot of times we forget to, feel with our feet. And actually, a lot of shoes are designed to cushion our feet so that we don't feel the ground. But we can really focus on, sensing what textures we're walking on. For example, is there a difference between the sidewalk and the grass, or walking on grass and walking on mud? Or we can think about, when we step on a stick, can we actually tell with our feet how big that stick is, or a pebble or a stone, how big that stone is? So that's using tiger paws. And then finally, we can use all of those senses together. And for the last few minutes of this walk, we can bring them all together and see if it's, what happens when we combine them all. And when you get back, you can record what you observed in your notebook. Now, the reason that I don't want y'all to bring a notebook on the walk is that, first of all, it's kind of hard to, do your horse ears or your eagle eyes when you're writing notes, but also, you might spend more time writing in your notebook and less time really observing. So you can save the notebook writing for later. And I went on a reverence walk yesterday, and on my reverence walk, I saw and heard and smelled and felt a few things. And so I wrote that down. One thing I saw was a squirrel nest in a tree. I heard two birds singing. I smelled a patch of mud, and I felt the softness of tall grass. So when you get back from your walk and write down some things that you observed in your notebook, feel free to also add them to the comment section of this video so that we can all, kind of get a sense of what we're seeing in this area. And to close, I want to talk a little bit about how this activity, the Reverence Walk, supports humane education goals. So some goals of humane education are to build positive attitudes towards animals, the environment, and our relationship with them. And that's what reverence is. Reverence is an attitude, and it's in particular an attitude of wonder and awe for other living beings and systems. And that leads to other positive attitudes too, like respect and responsibility. Another goal of humane education is to provide accurate knowledge. So as we are going around and learning about the animals who live in our local environment, we're building our knowledge of them. Like I learned that I have squirrels living in a tree next to me. Another goal is building skills like empathy, critical thinking, and decision making. And so by mimicking or pretending to be other animals, we're actually getting a sense of what their perspectives are. And that'll help us use our empathy to take their perspectives when we make decisions that might affect them. And then all of this supports actions to help animals and the environment at the individual and community level. So speaking of actions to help other animals, if you tune in on Friday, I'm going to be sharing the Humane Action of the Week, which will be something that you can do to help the animals who live in your space. Now, at the Detroit Zoological Society, humane education is a part of every education program that we do. And partly that's because of our one-of-a-kind initiative, the Berman Academy for Humane Education. It's allowed us to incorporate those goals into all of our programs. And so some programs might focus on one goal in particular, like in this case, the Reverence Walk really focused on reverence, but they all still do touch upon those other goals. So, speaking of humane education programs, be sure to tune in this afternoon at 4 o'clock because my friend and colleague David, who's an education specialist and storyteller, will be sharing some stories about the rhinos at the zoo and rhinos in the wild. So thanks so much for your time. Have a great day and stay safe. Bye.